I never thought I'd be the guy writing some messed up story like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I was married to Emily for about 2 years before everything went completely off the rails. We seemed to have a decent life on the surface, good jobs, a nice apartment, friends, family, the works. Honestly, I thought we were solid, or at least I thought I was until about a week ago. That's when I started noticing little things that set off alarms in my head. For starters, Emily's been acting weird lately. She's been distant, staying late at work more often than before, and her phone has become this fortress I can't get into anymore. I'd always had access, but suddenly she's got a lock code and she's quick to hide her texts. I'd catch her lying about where she was, saying she went to the grocery store, but I'd see her sneaking out with her phone, or she'd give some half-assed excuse about needing me time. That should have tipped me off, but I guess I was still in denial. She'd brush it off, call me paranoid, tell me I was imagining things. It got worse when she started canceling plans with friends, claiming she was too tired or not feeling well. The biggest clue, her phone kept buzzing at odd times and she'd quickly grab it and hide it behind her back or toss it onto the bed when I entered the room. I didn't want to believe it, but I felt like I was losing her, even if I couldn't quite put my finger on why. Something was off, and I knew it. I just didn't want to accept that the person I married could be capable of lying so blatantly. Then came the night of my bachelor party. I was out with some friends trying to have a good time, but my mind kept drifting to Emily. I was feeling uneasy, mostly because I'd noticed her texts were more frequent and secretive. As the night went on, I decided to do something I'd normally never do. I checked her phone. I know, trust and all that, but I had this gut feeling that something was wrong, and I needed to know for sure. What I found made my blood run cold. Her messages with her coworker, Sarah. The texts weren't just friendly banter. They were flirtatious, suggestive even. There were references to meeting up after work, plans to go out for drinks, and even some sexy emojis. I saw pictures of Emily, of her laughing with Sarah with heart emojis, saying things like, "Can't wait to see you tonight," and "This will be the best sex I've had in ages." I couldn't believe my eyes. This was my wife, the woman I trusted with everything, telling her coworker about their late-night plans, about how she was so over me and how she needed something more. That moment hit me like a punch in the stomach. My mind raced. How long had this been going on? Was it just before the wedding, or did it start after? I didn't know, but I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. I remember feeling this surge of rage and betrayal. It was like a switch flipped. I was furious at her for lying, but I was also hurt, devastated. I'd put my trust in her, and she'd thrown it away for some coworker she clearly thought was more exciting than me. The worst part, she'd lied about being pregnant during our engagement too. Said she was waiting to tell me because she wanted it to be perfect. Turns out all along she was sneaking around, cheating and hiding this from me. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut all over again. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there staring at my phone, replaying the texts over and over. The betrayal cut so deep. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs. Why did she lie about being pregnant? Why did she think she could get away with this? I kept thinking about the wedding, the vows we made, the future I'd envisioned with her. It all felt fake now, like I'd been living a lie from the start. I knew I needed to confront her, but I also knew this was just the beginning of something much darker. I wasn't sure if I was ready for what was coming next, but I couldn't ignore the truth anymore. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. Every muscle ached, and my mind was racing faster than I could keep up. I knew I had to confront her. I was furious, hurt, and feeling completely lost. I didn't even think about what I'd say. I just knew I needed to hear her explanation, though I had a sinking feeling I already knew what it would be. Emily was still sleeping when I got up. Usually, she'd be up early, making coffee or doing some yoga, but today she was tangled in the sheets, looking peaceful. Yet I saw the subtle signs of her being uneasy. She looked different, more defensive almost. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my anger in check, and sat down across from her at the breakfast table. She opened her eyes and immediately looked guilty. I didn't even give her a chance to speak. I just laid out everything I'd found, the texts, the pictures, the emojis, the late-night plans. Her face twisted in a way that made me want to vomit. She kept insisting she wasn't cheating, that it was all a misunderstanding, that Sarah was just a friend, and that I was overreacting. She called me paranoid, said I was crazy to think she'd do something like that. Her voice was defensive, trying to downplay everything, but I knew better now. I saw the lies in her eyes. She tried to spin it, said Sarah was just a coworker who she vented to, that they'd gone out for drinks once or twice, but that nothing ever happened. She called me insecure, accused me of snooping because I didn't trust her. But I wasn't about to be fooled again. I told her I saw her messages, and that was all I needed. I asked her loudly why she'd lie about being pregnant, why she'd keep me hanging on, acting like she was planning our future, when all along she was sneaking around with Sarah. Her reaction, she got angry. She started calling me names, saying I was suffocating her, that I was controlling, that I didn't understand her needs. She told me I was being so possessive, and that she deserved better than to be constantly watched, that she was stressed, and that I had no right to judge her for some stupid messages. She looked genuinely pissed off, like I was the one at fault for catching her. I felt my blood boil. How could she be so selfish? How could she lie to my face about something so huge? I remember feeling this mix of rage, sadness, and disappointment. I'd poured my heart into this marriage, and now I saw her for what she truly was, someone who'd cheat and lie and try to manipulate her way out of it. I told her she'd crossed a line, and that I didn't know if I could ever trust her again, that I needed time to think, to process what I'd just learned. She just shrugged and said she didn't want to lose me, but I knew that was a lie. Deep down, I knew she'd already made her choice. She was choosing her coworker over me, over everything we'd built. The emotional toll was overwhelming. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and broken. I questioned everything, my judgment, my worth, what I could have done differently. I kept replaying her lies about being pregnant, the false hope she'd given me, the fake future she'd painted. It hurt so badly knowing she faked something so important, lied about something so intimate. I'd never felt this kind of pain before, and I realized that this wasn't just about infidelity. It was about the complete betrayal of trust, of my entire life with her being a lie. That night I couldn't sleep again. My mind kept spiraling. What happens now? Do I try to fix this? Do I walk away? The idea of staying felt impossible, but part of me still wondered if she'd genuinely change. The other part knew I'd never be able to look at her the same way again. I thought about all the times she dismissed my feelings, the way she called me crazy when I got suspicious, the way she manipulated me to keep quiet. I was done being the fool, but I also felt a deep sadness that I'd lost someone I loved so much. The betrayal cut deeper than I could put into words. I decided I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I needed to see what she was really capable of, and honestly, I wanted her to feel some of what I was going through, betrayed, humiliated, and furious. I knew I had to plan my next move carefully, but right now I felt like I was just treading water, waiting for everything to come crashing down. The days that followed were a blur of anger, confusion, and a kind of numbness I'd never experienced before. I couldn't focus at work, couldn't sleep, and every time I closed my eyes I saw her texts, those damn emojis, the fake smile she'd put on when I asked her about Sarah. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I'd been so blind to what was really going on behind my back. I had trusted her with everything, my feelings, my future, even my very soul, and she'd just thrown it all away for some coworker she called friend. I stayed quiet at first, trying to process everything, but that silence was deafening. I kept replaying the confrontational morning, the way she looked when she lied and yelled and called me all these names. I felt like I was losing my mind, like I'd been living in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. But I knew I couldn't keep going like this. I had to do something. I needed to figure out what my next step was. One evening after work, I decided to go through her phone again, this time more thoroughly. I wanted every detail, every message. I didn't trust her to keep anything hidden anymore. I went through her texts and found even more evidence, screenshots of plans she'd made with Sarah, messages where she'd called herself so hot, so desired, and even joked about how she'd finally get some real sex. The words made my stomach turn. She'd been bragging about her affair, about the secret meetings, like it was some game to her. What hurt most was how she'd lied about the pregnancy. I remembered her telling me she was waiting to tell me, that she wanted to surprise me after the wedding. Turns out, she was already cheating long before I even proposed. That's when I really started to see the full picture of just how deep her deception went. It was like she was living a double life, and I'd been completely blind to it. All those times she said she was so tired. All those nights she claimed she was working late. She was with her coworker, Sarah, having sex, sneaking around. I knew I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I decided I'd confront her again, but this time I'd do it with all my cards on the table. I wanted her to see I wasn't stupid. I wasn't some fool who'd get played forever. I wanted her to feel what I'd been feeling, betrayed, humiliated, and furious. I planned to do it that night after she got home from work. I'd keep calm, ask her why she did it, and see if she even had a real explanation. When she finally came in that evening, I was sitting on the couch, my phone in my hand, pretending to be normal. She looked nervous, like she knew I'd found something. She tried to brush past me, acting like nothing was wrong, but I stopped her. I told her I knew everything. About Sarah, about the pregnancy, about her lying and cheating. Her face twisted again, this time with a mix of anger and panic. She immediately started yelling, trying to deny, trying to deflect. She called me crazy, paranoid, said I was stalking her. But I didn't care anymore. I had the proof and I wasn't backing down. She threw a fit, calling me possessive, controlling, and even accused me of making her do it, that I'd driven her to seek attention elsewhere because I was so awful. The words felt like poison. I told her that her lies, her cheating, her manipulation, they destroyed whatever was left of our marriage. I told her I was done, that I was sick of her excuses, her bullshit, and her betrayal. I told her if she wanted to be with Sarah or whoever else, she could just go. I didn't want a liar, a cheater in my life anymore. She stormed out, screaming at me, saying I was ruining her life, that I didn't understand her needs, that she was so tired of pretending. I sat there watching her leave, feeling this strange mixture of relief and heartbreak. I thought I'd feel victorious, but instead I just felt hollow. All I could think about was the pain, the lies, and how much my trust had been shattered. That night I stayed up late, staring at the ceiling. I realized I'd been clinging to a dream that was never real. I'd given her everything, my love, my future, and she'd thrown it all away for sex and lies. I knew I had to decide what to do next. Part of me wanted to fight, to try and fix this mess, but a bigger part understood this was the end of the line. I couldn't live with a wife who lied so blatantly, who cheated behind my back, and who accused me of being possessive. When I just wanted honesty, I was done being the fool. The days after the confrontation are a blur of chaos and painful clarity. I spent hours just sitting alone in the apartment, staring at the walls, trying to make sense of everything. I felt like I was walking around in a haze, every thought clouded by betrayal and heartbreak. I didn't sleep much, just kept replaying her words, her lies, her angry accusations. I kept asking myself how I'd let it get this far, how I hadn't seen it coming. I started talking to a few friends, guys I trust, just to get some perspective. Most of them told me I'd dodged a bullet, that there was no future with someone who lied and cheated like that. But I knew it wasn't that simple. I'd loved Emily. I'd wanted to build a life with her. And now, all those plans, all those memories we'd made, they felt hollow. It was like everything I believed in had been crushed in an instant. I also started going through her things, trying to find out if there was anything else she'd hidden. I found more evidence, photos of her and Sarah in what looked like some hotel room, texts about how they planned to keep their affair secret just a little longer, and even some more intimate messages talking about the sex we shouldn't be having and how much she missed Sarah's touch. It was disgusting and heartbreaking all at once. I felt so stupid, so naive for trusting her even a little. One thing that really struck me was how brazen she was about it, like she didn't care if I found out, like she was proud of what she was doing. It made me furious to think about all the times she'd called me paranoid or crazy, trying to make me feel guilty for doubting her. She lied about everything, even about being pregnant, and I'd believed her, wanted to believe her, until I couldn't ignore the evidence anymore. I started to realize that I'd been living in a fantasy. I thought I had a partner who loved me, who'd stand by me no matter what. Instead, I got someone who was having sex with her coworker, lying about a pregnancy, and sneaking around behind my back. I felt so angry that I wanted to punch something, scream at her. But I knew that wouldn't fix anything. What I needed was to get out of this mess and start focusing on myself. That's when I made the decision. I was done. I couldn't keep pretending that this was just a misunderstanding or some slip-up. She crossed a line so far beyond what I thought was acceptable, and I wasn't going to be the guy who tolerates betrayal. I knew I had to set some boundaries, cut her out of my life, and focus on healing. But honestly, I felt broken, like part of me had died that day she lied about everything. The trust I had in her, in us, was shattered. I wondered how I'd ever be able to look at her again without feeling this wave of disgust. In the beginning, I told myself I'd fight for us, try to fix what was broken. But deep down, I knew that wasn't happening. You don't cheat on someone, then call them paranoid and make excuses, and expect everything to just go back to normal. It's like trying to rebuild something after it's been burned to the ground. I was exhausted, emotionally drained, and honestly, I didn't want to keep hurting myself by hanging on to someone who didn't care enough to be honest. So I started planning my next steps. I contacted a lawyer just to get an idea of what the divorce process would look like. I reached out to my family and some close friends for support. I knew I needed to get out of this place, physically and emotionally. I wasn't sure what my future held, but I knew I couldn't keep carrying this weight. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry. I'd never felt this way before, and I didn't know how to deal with it. But I also knew one thing for certain. I was finally waking up from a nightmare I'd allowed myself to live in for far too long. The decision to move on wasn't easy, but it became clearer each day that staying would only mean more pain. I started packing up my things, little by little, trying to detach myself from the life I'd thought we had. Every item I boxed up felt like a small victory and a painful reminder at the same time. The photos of us together, the letters, even her favorite hoodie, each one was a piece of the life I'd believed in, now tainted with lies. Once I was out of the apartment, I felt a strange mix of relief and devastation. I had finally removed myself from the situation, but the emotional scars still burned deep. I kept remembering the moments she'd lied, the times she'd called me insecure when I was only trying to protect what little trust was left. I'd been so blind, so hopeful that she'd change, but now I saw her for what she truly was, a woman who could lie about being pregnant, cheat with her coworker, and then turn it around on me like I was the problem. I made a promise to myself that I wouldn't let this define me. I started seeing a therapist to help process everything, to deal with the betrayal and learn to trust again. It's been a long road, and I won't pretend I'm fully healed. Some days are better than others, and every now and then I get hit with a wave of anger or sadness. But each day I remind myself that I deserve honesty, respect, and someone who truly cares. I shouldn't have to question whether my wife is lying or sneaking around. In the midst of all this chaos, I realized how important it was to set boundaries. I cut her out completely, blocked her number, severed ties on social media, and told my friends to steer clear of her. I didn't want her to keep manipulating or twisting the story. I needed to take control of my life again. I won't lie, the pain was overwhelming at first, but I kept telling myself that I was better off without someone who'd betray me like that. Looking back, I think the most painful part is how much I loved her and how she threw that away without a second thought. She lied about the pregnancy, lied about being so tired, lied about everything just to keep her affair hidden. And when I finally found out, she couldn't even muster a genuine apology. Instead, she called me possessive, controlling, and made me feel like I was the crazy one. That's what really hurt, how she gaslighted me, how she made me doubt my own instincts. Now I'm focused on rebuilding myself. I've started going to the gym again, reconnecting with friends and trying to find a new perspective. I still get angry. Sometimes, especially when I think about how much she lied, how she played me. But I also realize I've learned something important. Never ignore the red flags. Never dismiss your gut feelings, even if you want to believe the best in someone. Trust is sacred, and once it's broken, it's almost impossible to fix. Most of all, I want to warn anyone who's in a similar situation. Trust your instincts. Don't let anyone gaslight you into thinking you're crazy for feeling suspicious. If you see signs of cheating, lying, or manipulation, confront it sooner rather than later. Because once that trust is gone, it's damn hard to get it back. And sometimes walking away is the only way to truly save yourself. I don't regret what I did, getting out, moving on, and reclaiming my life. It hurts like hell, but I know deep down that I'm better off without her. I just wish I'd seen the signs earlier. I wish I hadn't been so blind. But now I'm finally starting to breathe again, and honestly, that feels like a small victory every day. Now, looking back, I realize just how much this whole experience changed me. I used to believe in fairy tale endings, in the idea that love meant never having to say you're sorry or question your partner's fidelity. Turns out, trust is something you earn every day, and once it's gone, it's like trying to rebuild a house after a fire, possible but incredibly difficult and never quite the same. I've learned to value myself more, to listen to that voice inside that tells me when something's wrong. I've learned that it's okay to walk away from someone who betrays you, no matter how much you love them or how long you've been together. Because if someone can lie about something as huge as being pregnant, cheat with a coworker, and then turn around and call you paranoid, they don't deserve your trust or your love. This whole ordeal has made me realize that I'm stronger than I thought. I've had to pick up the pieces of my broken heart, dust myself off, and start over. It's not easy, and some days are worse than others. But I know I'll come out of this better, more aware, more cautious, and more determined to find someone who truly respects me. To anyone out there going through something similar, don't ignore the red flags. Don't convince yourself that things will get better if you just try harder. Sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away and focus on healing. It's going to hurt, there's no denying that, but you'll come out stronger on the other side. Trust yourself. Your instincts are never wrong. In the end, I'm grateful for the lesson. It's a hard one, but I've learned that I deserve honesty, respect, and someone who truly cares. I'll never forget the pain, but I also won't let it define me. I'm moving forward, one step at a time, and I know that someday I'll look back on this chapter not with bitterness, but with relief that I finally freed myself from a lie I was too blind to see at first. Life goes on, and I'm ready to face whatever comes next alone, but stronger than ever.